So welcome to
Welcome.
our show again.
What a week this has been. We've had so many things happening with the unfortunate, very tragic conflict in the Middle East, also with a new Speaker of the House, and also
So
within...
tell us, what are we going, so many things to discuss, but what are the main topics that we're going to tell our viewers?
Here at the White House, what we're hearing, just the chatter, people are talking about the Israel-Hamas conflict.
Right.
It's looming over everybody's minds. I mean, one of the great issues that President Biden is facing is how to keep the conflict contained so it doesn't become a broader war in the north with Hezbollah or even other countries. And President Biden has sent not one but two aircraft carrier groups to that area as a warning, saying don't you dare, any of you malactors, get involved in this conflict, because we have over 10,000 sailors on hand to deal with this issue.
So these are basically defensive posture, an important posture to prevent the spread of war.
Many years ago, during the Civil War, it was called the Department of War.
Right.
And now it's called the Department...
There used to be room there. Security.
That's right.
Yeah.
And during World War II, of course, the Pentagon was created, and it was renamed to the Department of Defense. And that is really the mindset of most generals, is to figure out how to avoid war. And so the idea is overwhelming strength. Show it and say, look, do not mess with us, because we will, if you do, we'll kill you.
But still, organizations like Hamas do still try to mess.
Terrible situation. The trouble with Hamas is that it's a terrorist organization, and Israel is caught in an awful conundrum, because at once there was this horrendous terrorist attack upon Israeli civilians. Many of them were people that were Peace Now movement. They were for peace with Palestinians. And Israel's government, which is arguably the most far-right government that Israel has ever had, it has its initial impact is to respond with bombing. Well, as Secretary of State Anthony Blinken has counseled Israel, he says, look, bombing usually doesn't work. I mean, look what happened to us in Afghanistan. I mean, that's not how we got out Osama bin Laden. We got him out by SEAL Team 6 with Barack Obama sending them into Pakistan to take him out. It almost never works. What it does do, unfortunately, is it inflates tensions. It makes people who might have sat on the sides become angry at the bombing, and that actually radicalizes the population. Here's the conundrum, and that is Israel must take care of getting rid of Hamas. They're a terrorist organization, but Hamas has dug tunnels underneath of hospitals and schools and organizations that are charitable organizations, so that Israel has this conundrum. How do you deal with this?
I have one question. So can you give us a sense of what is your assessment of the situation in Middle East right now and where we are headed towards?
It is very dangerous. I think anybody looking at this is worried that this thing could spiral out of control. Ironically, from what I've heard from various sources, even Iran, though, which has funded Hamas and Hezbollah, does not want to make this thing increase. However, it could easily, I mean, tensions are very, very high. Both anti-Palestinian rhetoric, we've seen it over on Capitol Hill, and anti-Semitism, which seems the old go-to for people throughout thousands of years, is to launch anti-Semitic tirades.
So for the last 1.5 years, we have been mostly discussing about the war in Ukraine. Now you have two major wars happening in the world, Ukraine and Middle East, Gaza or Israel, what you may call. In the Congress, what's happening there on these two wars?
Well, I want to circle back to something you mentioned earlier about these two wars.
Right.
Russia and China are just smiling ear to ear. There's nothing that could, and Iran, there's nothing that could make them happier than for us to be involved in two wars, so as to distract from Ukraine and also distract from China's eyes toward Taiwan. This is a very dangerous situation. And I mean, we don't have any, I mean, we've got consultants that are trying to work with this government. Israel did come with a new coalition of people, such as Benny Gantz, who was on the left. So they were trying to push away a little bit some of the far right members of the Netanyahu government, people that conflate every single resident of Gaza as sympathetic to Hamas, which is just outrageous. I mean, half the residents of Gaza are children, after all.
Sometimes terrorist organizations use these very basic things, right, as a shield. Right.
That's correct. And that's the
convention that you're
terrible dilemma that Israel is.
The convention that you're mentioning too is also does say that there cannot be any war. Yeah, you cannot fire thousands of missiles on innocent people, right?
That's correct. And Israel, it's not that they just have the right to defend themselves. The government must root out Hamas. But here's the dilemma, and that is
the people of Gaza to make sure that Hamas doesn't use those tools again, right, against innocent peoples in Israel.
Right. And the reason, by the way, that the Israeli government has been cutting fuel off to Gaza is not because of babies in incubators, but because there are these hundreds of miles of tunnels that are lit and also have circulating air. They only can operate with fuel. And Hamas has been brutal toward its own civilians. It likes it when it kills Israelis. It likes it when Israel kills Palestinians. It does not want peace. And so the question for Israel is how to deal with this. I don't think anybody has a good answer for Israel. It's a terrible situation. However, it is really important for everybody to stick to facts.
The answer lies with Hamas. They should come out and surrender, and they should
disband. They should never be a Hamas. They're a terrorist organization. They are dedicated to the abolition of Israel. They are not a legitimate government. And once they got elected in the early aughts, they disbanded elections in Gaza. The problem is that we do have a Palestinian Authority, the Fatah movement, that has been trying to work with Israel, but the far-right movement in Israel has been actually trying to put them aside. And I mean, the question has to be at some point, how do we deal with the Palestinian issue? Because it is first of all, that is the only way to get peace, is to find a legitimate solution.
Solution is already there. What President Obama has said and President Biden has said, two-state solution. It's already
but
there.
Netanyahu has done everything he can to get rid of it. I mean, as a result, Netanyahu has a very low approval rating in Israel. And this is something for people, anti-Israel people, to understand. And that is that Netanyahu has a minority of support. He is deeply unpopular. Most Israelis do not support the settler movement, which has been spurring tensions in the region.
And finally, this is what we have been discussing on this show for the last 1.5 years. All the conflicts ends with talks and dialogue. So at the end of the day, both the Hamas or the Palestinians and the Israelis have to come and sit down together and to find a common solution.
That's correct. And the problem is that, unfortunately, in this, we've had some very fine leaders, and then we've had a lot of knuckleheads. We had Yasser Arafat, who was basically almost offered a deal back during Oslo, and he didn't say yes to it, but he didn't say no. He didn't say anything. He just didn't confirm and take the deal, which would have given Palestinians 95% of what they were asking for. So, I mean, what we really need is solid, good leadership. And Mahmoud Abbas, who leads the Palestinian Authority, is old, he's frail. He seems like a very decent person, but the trouble is that he doesn't have the energy of somebody that we need to take care of this.
Lies that both the parties' representatives should sit down in a room, have a call, have a meeting, series of meetings, and come up with a solution. There is no problem which cannot be resolved through dialogue.
That's correct. And here's the thing, and that is one thing that all warmongers have to know, and that is that war is never the solution. One has to eventually get to the table to decide. And we've heard some chatter that there have been some far-right Israelis that have been pushing Netanyahu to just push out all Palestinians from Gaza, which would be, first of all, where would they go? Second of all, I mean, that is what other Arab country would want to take in so many refugees? It is a horrible, horrible idea.
Look, I don't follow the reason as closely as I follow, but what I have seen on the news reports, Israelis have been patient enough, right? Immediately after the horrible Hamas attack, they could have bombed the entire. They have the capabilities and willpower,
right. And they could have
support,
right? And they could have actually bombed. They could have flattened the entire Gaza. They could have.
Shown a lot of patience.
They have.
Yeah.
They actually did, because they could have flattened the entire region. So there has been this kind of tension. It's like,
tough call for them. Yeah.
It's fiercely tough. I don't envy.
They have to take action against Hamas, but also at the same time protect the people.
That's correct.
But it's quite unfortunate that despite all these things, people are in desperate situation right there.
It's terribly tragic. It's terribly tragic.
So let's move away from there and what's happening in the Congress now.
Well, we have a new speaker in Mike Johnson, and so we were waiting to see. He appears to be, he's got a very reasonable demeanor to him. He's got kind of glasses not unlike my own, and
I never knew that there's someone called Mike Johnson in the Congress before he was elected.
Well, it was Susan Collins who said, she never heard of him. I'm going to have to Google him. Well, the thing is remember I told you about the College of Cardinals?
Yeah.
That a person comes
and
an unknown person comes out the future
you
pope.
You have always been right on all those predictions.
Well, that's true. I mean, a person who made no enemies, right. A person that was able to kind of slip through the cracks, but he has shown no leadership experience. Now what he's done is he's kind of reverted back to his old far-right Christian nationalist ways, which is to basically try to throw a curveball to President Biden here at the White House and say, okay, we'll provide $14.3 billion in aid to Israel. Of course, he didn't mention Ukraine because former President Trump has a thing against Ukraine because he was impeached because he was trying to extort Ukrainian President Zelensky. And so Mike Johnson said, okay, we'll do that, but we're going to defund the IRS by $14.3 billion. And the Congressional Budget Office said, actually, that would lead to an increase in the U.S. debt by 12.4 billion dollars because of the IRS would not be able to enforce tax cheats. And so this is not a way for fiscal sanity or fiscal responsibility. It's a way of political posturing is all it is. And of course, President Biden has said that he would veto any bill. And of course, the Senate said no way. And Senate Majority Leader called the House's bill led by Mike Johnson a joke.
Great. Anything else that you'd like to discuss today? Tell our viewers.
Well, we do have a looming shutdown that is.
How many days from now?
Well, today's the 3rd, and it's on the 17th, so that's 14 days from now, 2 weeks from now. And I mean, look, beside aid for Israel, Ukraine, and also about our incipient issues with China and Taiwan, military aid, and also getting military commissions confirmed by the Senate, because one senator, Tommy Tuberville, has blocked every single promotion, which is just, that's a whole issue unto itself. Right. But now we have this issue of a pending government shutdown. The House has to do something. They haven't spoken of nothing. Of course, there's not enough time to put together an omnibus resolution at this point, so they have to put together what's called a CR, or continuing resolution.
Great, wonderful.
Yeah.
So with this, we'll end our show now.
Yeah.
And we'll come back to you. Keep on watching us, and if you like it, Go ahead.
Right, and also if you have any questions, put them in the comments below. We'll answer those questions. We'll speak
Not
on
only
those.
to us, if you have any questions for the White House, let us know.
Let us know, and we'll go to the White House and ask.
Yes.
That was
On
great.
your behalf.
All right, thank you so much.
We'll be here soon.
Right, and also don't forget to look over here under Lalit at the last Friday roundup, and over here at the video that YouTube suggests you watch best. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, that was good.
Good.